They're together again. Matt, Slick Hawk Nicholas.
I'll go by Slick. I'll go by Slick Hawk. I'll go by Matt. You know, the whole range.
And Mitchy the Kid.
Slick Hawk, Matt Nicholas is on Mitch Unfiltered. I never thought I'd say those words.
Shootin' the shit with Slick and Mitch.
What? I don't know. You prepare your whole face and body for the Slicky. What? No, sorry.
Slicky?
Mitchy. It was that just reminds me. That reminds me of the morning show. It reminds me of the morning show on the mornings when you would start the show before you would start the show. You know, big air quotes. Because there would be times we'd be 20 minutes into it, and you'd say, well, we haven't started the show yet.
Yes.
We haven't started the show.
Yes, that's exactly right.
And those were some of my favorite mornings. So that was there were many ways, you could start the show. Like when you play a game, like a pool game or whatever. Yeah. You break, and then wherever the balls are, that's how the game starts. When you play a game of chess, there's certain opens in the game of chess, right?
Yes.
So, and I know this because I watched Queen's Gambit, so I'm very wise to chess now. But very wise. There were little formulaic starts, different ways you could start the show. That was one of them, and that was one of my favorites. So,
well, you know who that was inspired by? I think I told you this story a million times.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember? Do you remember?
No, because it was
George Carlin.
Oh, okay.
The late great comedian George Carlin. I saw him one time. I never thought that George Carlin was all that funny, although most comedians will tell you that he was an extra. He was like, everybody bowed to George Carlin, one of the greats of all times within the industry. I went to see George Carlin one time, and it was in Vegas, and the whole 2 hours that he was up there, he was like, before we start the show. Now, before we get started here, and he did that the whole couple hours, and then the show was over. He never actually started the show, and that's where that was the inspiration behind before we start the show.
I like that.
So before
we start the show, I want to let everybody know I'm drinking beer out of a Mitch Unfiltered mug right now.
And I like that. Mm-hmm. I like that very much.
It's all about the marketing.
So before we start the show, Slicky. Do you have anything that you'd like to say before we start the show? Anything like when we're in the bullpen right now. We're warming up. We're throwing the ball around a little bit. Is there anything that you'd like to say before we start the show? Because I know what I want to say before we start the show.
Okay, I just want to say before we start the show, if you step up to a gambling window, whether it's at the Snoqualmie Casino or whatever,
and I've done that a lot this year.
So have I. So have I. It is important that it's important to have rules and structure, and then when you have those rules established over your years of experience with sports gambling, to stick to those rules. I did not do that tonight.
Uh-oh.
I forgot one of my cardinal rules, which is never, ever, ever bet against the home team on Thursday Night Football.
Is that true? I don't know that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's my rule.
You went against my Finzies?
Yeah, I did.
Oh.
They were, 2-7 playing against the Ravens, who were just red hot. And
yeah. It never works out that way.
No.
Let me ask you a question. As somebody who just returned from Vegas, let me ask you a gambling question before we start the show. Mm-hmm. My gambling question is this. If you went back in your lifetime of wagering on football games, basketball, whatever it is that you've wagered on over the years, and you flipped the sides in every wager that you've ever made, how many wagers would you say you've made? How old are you these days?
I'm 37 years old.
Yes.
But I'm newer to the sports gambling.
Okay.
We never had it here.
Right.
I never did it through a source or a site or anything.
Right.
So
a guy in an alley.
I haven't done it a ton. I've done, let's say, but when I go down to Vegas for March, so let's say I've made 300 wagers in my life.
That's it. 300 wagers.
We'll
on
say
games.
300 wagers. Yeah.
If we went back over those 300 wagers and we flipped and we had you take the opposing side.
Yeah.
What would be your percentage against the
When you were
spread?
down there last weekend, you would have walked into Hotel Slick Hawk is what would have happened. Casino and resort.
It just seems that easy.
I know.
I went to Vegas And on Saturday, I think I went on a Friday, and on Saturday morning I got up and I did the whole I did the whole Neuheisel thing. That was a disaster.
Oh God, I did the same thing.
On Sunday Night Football. Sunday Night Football. My big brother, Jay, and I were wandering around the casino. We had just gotten back from the new Circa. I don't know if you've been to the new Circa.
I haven't.
The new sports book at the Circa. Did you see my video?
How fun is that,
though,
right?
My God.
Yeah. With
Oh
the
my
pool
God.
and the giant
I met the
screen.
owner and the developer. Oh, he was great. Anyway, we watched football all day.
Mm-hmm.
Jay is just out by the pool watching football. He's not wagering. He's not much of a bettor, not a gambler. I put a few dollars on a few early games at the Circa, did okay. And then we're wandering through our casino on Sunday night, and he's like, "Okay, Mitchie, let's go do something. Let's go do something, and let's put some money on this Sunday night game and sit down and watch it and root for our money." And he's like, "It's 10. I'll defer to you, Mitchie. You're the football guy. Tell me." I said, "Come on, the Rams, the first game without Derrick Henry. You got to go out to Los Angeles and face the Rams." Let's bet the Rams. Let's bet the over. Let's tease the Rams. And we're just sitting there, and he's looking. He's like, "This is exactly why I don't bet. I don't bet." If we had gone against ourselves in all those Sunday night plays, we would have won every one of them, every single one of them. So I can't
say too much about that because I did have the Titans and the points, and I had the Bears and the points on Monday night. This was actually a good week for me last week, which I haven't had too many of. So that worked out. Yeah. Oh. God, if you're a Bear, that sucked.
Oh.
I mean, he didn't even say anything, did he?
I don't think he
How
about the hip check by the official on his way
what's
by?
that? Carenti? What are you doing, Carenti?
Oh. Anyway,
do that.
So before we start the show, maybe we should call this either Shootin' the Shit or just before we start the show. Just the whole show is before we start the show.
I like Shootin' the Shit. I really like that.
Okay, so we're shooting the shit. How is Robert Hunt not my new favorite freaking football player?
Yes!
Explain to me this dude. I mean, come on.
And look, he's the right guard, which means he's an interior lineman, which means at no point is he ever even you could say, okay, well, maybe sometimes he's an eligible tackle on the end, maybe he's a guard. There is no way in his entire life that he has ever been eligible for a pass.
That's right.
And I don't know what, obviously nothing, is a brain fart or something. And to catch the ball, but then have the wherewithal to catch it, rumble, bumble, stumble, reach out.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked like a running back. It was great. It was one of the great moments in football that won't count.
I have so many things to say about this.
Yes.
I don't even know where to begin with my spiel on Robert Hunt. Number one, I don't know if you were watching it live.
Yes.
I can't imagine there were a lot of people paying attention to the Dolphins game against the Ravens on a Thursday night live. I was, for obvious reasons.
As was I.
Let me tell you what I was thinking when the play was developing, even though I saw Myles Gaskin there in the vicinity. The first thought, I got to tell you, that came to my mind is, he must have checked in. This is one of the greatest. I've never seen a screen pass to an offensive lineman in my life. He checked in eligible, and the offensive coaching staff for the Dolphins are geniuses. This is the greatest player. It was just too natural. He caught the ball so naturally. It was like he must have checked in and no one paid attention. That's the first thing. They
work on this. It's a wrinkle. They've been waiting for the right moment. Yeah.
And I was saying to myself, and number two, before we begin the show, of course, I was saying to myself, this is while it's going on. Look at this. The Dolphins are running a perfectly executed screen pass to an offensive lineman, and we in Seattle can't run one to a running back. Right?
Yes.
Okay. That's the second thing. The third thing I thought, once I realized now that it was illegal, it was against the rules, is this I was thinking back to all the people over the years who have told me, Mitch, you don't understand. These offensive linemen these days, they're great athletes. You look at them and you think they're big and they just can't run and whatever. Yeah. They're legitimate athletes. These guys were basketball players in high school. And I go back and I've watched it a million times. I even tweeted it out. The guy, first of all, he's at least quick, if not fast, at 340 pounds.
Yeah.
Second of all,
motoring.
He cuts back. Go back. He cuts back at the 8 and makes a defender miss. And then he's being flipped over and he reaches across the plate of the goal line. The guy, he's a better athlete. I mean, the athleticism that this guy had at 340 pounds, unbelievable.
Sign him.
Unbelievable.
Sign him. Next time
my new
Carson
favorite
gets
player.
hurt, sign him. No, that was great.
My new
but
favorite
then
player.
my takeaway from the whole thing is
Yes, before we start. Yeah.
before we start the show.
Yeah.
If you have a penalty like that, there's got to be a loss it down because it's a busted play. He bails them out. By getting the penalty, they get another shot at it. So that's got to change.
Yeah.
That was super fun.
I actually thought that illegal touching was a loss it down, no?
I guess not.
Well, I guess the Ravens could have declined it had they wanted to. They didn't have to take the penalty.
Yeah,
they took the penalty.
Yeah, but it would have been a touchdown if they decline it.
Oh, could you imagine Harbaugh going, that was too good. We'll just decline it. Let him have it.
Let it stand. Let him have his moment. We're getting our ass kicked anyway. Let's just regroup
Now, listen,
next
we
week.
should start the show.
Okay.
But before we start the show, did I see where OBJ is going to L.A. with Von Miller?
Yeah, he's a Ram. OBJ is a Ram. How do you feel about that?
Are we
I don't
making
know.
so? Where are we? Are we making fun of the people? Have been making fun of the Rams. The Von Miller thing. They gave up way too much for a rental player for 8 weeks.
They did.
And now they're putting OBJ out there, and people are making fun of the fact that, oh my God, this team doesn't have any salary cap, and they're not going to have any draft. They don't want to draft anybody. They're making fun of Stan Kroenke for how they're going forward. I guess this is like if they don't win this. I mean, if they get to the Super Bowl, that would be. You could not.
Then what can you say?
Yeah.
Then what can you say? They
can't. They got to the Super Bowl.
Goal accomplished. And, they did it, they were in there 3-4 years ago. They were in the Super Bowl. And we were saying at the time, okay, super short window because of the kinds of moves they were making then. And then they continued to make those moves and have no first-round draft picks and have very little draft capital. I'm sorry, salary cap room.
Yeah.
But they just keep doing these things, keep finding a way to fit it in. And the way the league is anymore, I mean, it only takes a couple of years of doing some smart stuff to really set yourself up again and really go back to going for it again. So, the other thing I was going to mention anyway, and so it's the perfect time, I think, right now to bring it up before we start the show. Who is great in the NFL right now? I mean, why wouldn't the Rams say, hey, let's go for it? We got a great start. We're 7-2. We came off a game that didn't really go our way the other night, but in the entire league, who's great? There's no dominant team. The closest thing might be the Packers.
Bucks.
They're a pretty complete team, and we're going to see them on Sunday.
Bucks.
Yeah, the Bucks.
Yeah.
Bucks, but the Bucks aren't I don't know. The Bucks never struck me as a great team. And last year they weren't a great team. They certainly
They were the
heated
wild
up at the
card.
right time.
They were the wild card team in the NFC. Yeah.
So I don't know. There's nobody that sticks out as dominant right now.
Well,
if you've got to start like they have, why wouldn't you push all in?
Here's what if you had asked me last week, and I guess I'd give you the same answer this week, but if you had asked me last week, Mitch, who's the best team? I would have said the Los Angeles Rams.
Okay.
I've thought the Los Angeles Rams have been the best team. Now, and I bet on them. I bet on them on Sunday night. They're certainly not the best team when I bet on them, but
No. Bet on them more, would you please?
God, you look at them and you ask yourself, all right, they don't have the greatest running game. Henderson's okay and whatever, but now they got OBJ, but they got Kupp and they got Woods and Stafford. Stafford, I couldn't believe how bad he was on Sunday night, but typically is very good. And on defense, oh my God.
Yeah.
They've got the best defensive player in the line. They've got the best defensive back out there. They're going to add Von Miller. I mean, they've got this guy Floyd. Nobody even talks about this guy Floyd Leonard. Is it Leonard Floyd, the defensive end? He's a beast out there.
They've got guys.
I don't see how the Rams aren't the most complete team. I thought it last week at this time. I certainly think it this week at this time. And I think OBJ, people like to take a dump on OBJ. I think he's very talented. He's obviously he's one of these wide receivers. He's one of these divas or whatever. Do you want to try to cover those three guys? Do you want to try to cover those guys with Tyler Higbee running?
No, I've
don't.
seen what happens. We just trying to cover two of them. It doesn't go so well for the Seahawks. So add a third guy, and it's going to be trouble.
So before we start the show, should we talk about Russell Wilson coming back?
Yes.
Or do we want to talk about
should.
that on the show?
I guess that's up to you. Pin boy, what a recovery for him, and videos and everything. He is ready to go.
Randy Mueller took
to nobody. I don't think he's into the Russell Wilson thing. Is the thing.
Randy is old school.
Yeah,
and I don't think that anybody who's old school likes the whole circus, likes the whole look at me. Here's what I'm doing. Here's my workout videos in L.A. under the palm trees. Here's the pin. Here's the pin that came out of my finger. I don't think that. I don't think Randy Mueller's into that whole thing.
I get that. Look, Russ isn't for everybody, and I think that a lot of that stuff is more kind of fun and cutesy, and when you're winning. Everything's fine when you're winning, as long as you're winning.
Yeah.
But when you're losing, and then that stuff's going on, then then the wagons, they start to circle him. So
yeah.
I don't know. I love Russ. I love everything he's done. I laugh at all the funny stuff. He's a caricature of himself, and he knows he is. But I think that's what he wants to be.
I don't think he's trying to be funny, though. I think he's dead serious.
Well, I think it started out that way. I think now he understands kind of what he is and how he's perceived. And so I think he has that self-awareness. I don't think he cares. And so he's just going to keep doing what he does because it seems to be profitable for him.
On the Seahawks note table, we have to pick the score of the game. And I picked the score, and they could not believe it. They should have seen the faces on Joe and Brady when I picked Green Bay 34, Seattle 16. And they were like, what? That's an ass whooping. I said, yeah, it's an ass whooping because I think what on earth? Somebody please tell me where I'm way off base to think that the team that I've been watching, the team that I saw when Russell Wilson was healthy, and now he's coming back questionably rough, could be rusty, could still have a little something going on in the hand. Green Bay is mad. Green Bay is coming off a loss. Aaron Rodgers is coming back. They've been one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NFC. It's in Green Bay where Russell Wilson's never won. I don't see how the offensive line is going to protect him. He's going to be under siege the whole time. Why am I crazy for thinking that the Packers are going to win this game going away?
I don't think you're crazy at all. I was thinking about it long and hard while I was watching the Thursday night game, just about because I know I'm gonna come on here and we're gonna talk about the game, and I need to have some thoughts on it. And I was just thinking, about
because Mitch is gonna ask me before we start the show.
Before we start, now I should have a good answer. Either before or after we start the show, I should have an answer.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about what we just talked about how there's no dominant teams right now except maybe the Packers. And call me crazy. I don't call you crazy for your take. Your take is the take that I should have, that everybody should have. I'm giving the Seahawks somewhat of a puncher's chance in this game. Maybe I shouldn't. But I could see. I close my eyes and I could see it. You could
see what? A close game or a win?
Either or. Ooh. I'm not betting on it. No.
How?
Because
based on what? Give me one good reason.
Gut? I don't know, because I've watched. All I can say is gut, and having watched a lot of football, it seems like a game that the Seahawks could find themselves in it in the fourth quarter.
Okay, and
maybe Russell Wilson can lead them to a victory in the end. Do I have quantifiable reasons? All I can say is a defense. I'm looking at a defense that, the last 2 weeks I think has played pretty well. I don't know how good they are or not good they are, how improved they are. This will be a good test to find that out. They don't have to be all world to win, even against a good team like the Packers. But if you can hold the Packers to 24, 27 points, if you can get going a little bit with Russell Wilson early on, get DK worked in early on, and, Chris Carson seems like he's going to be healthy, work him in and just kind of see where you're at. I could see them putting together a few drives early and then sustaining that late, and maybe you pull away with a 31-27 victory. I don't know.
I hope you're right. And here's what I will say to you.
I just watched the Dolphins beat that effing Ravens. So
here's what I would say to you.
Yeah.
Here's what I would say to you. If you are right, and the Seattle Seahawks somehow on Sunday beat the Packers, they will be in the playoffs.
Okay.
they will be in the playoffs. If they can win this game and go out and legitimately win this game in Green Bay, after what I watched the NFC do last week, just take a major step backwards towards the Seahawks. The Seahawks, I talked to Mr. Playoffs. I saw him in Vegas. His twin brother, Mr. Postseason, I saw him too.
Yeah, were they poolside?
And they both told me it's now to the point where there aren't even going to be two teams in the NFC that are 9-8 for that last playoff spot. There will only be, if it's a 9-8 football team, it won't even be a tiebreaker that makes the third and final playoff spot. So if they win, and here's what I would say to those of you that believe that I'm right and agree with me that the Packers will win and maybe even going away, just remember what Mr. Playoffs has said over and over again, and that is this. The Seahawks will not be truly out of it until they lose a game against the Texans, 49ers, Washington football team, Lions, or Bears.
Okay.
They can lose to the Packers 100-0. They can turn around the next week and lose to the Cardinals 100-0. They could be 3-7 because of the NFC and the mediocrity or worse of that final playoff spot. The Seattle Seahawks are not going to be out of the playoff picture until they lose a game against the Texans, Niners, Washington football team, Lions, or Bears.
Yeah.
That's it.
That makes sense.
Okay. As soon as they lose one of those, then we can talk about eliminating them from the playoff. It'll be very tough. But if they win those 5, that's 8. You do the math. That's 8. And I'm telling you, 9-8 is golden for the final playoff spot. 5 is 8, so they just need to win 1 against the Packers, the Cardinals twice, or the Rams.
Just put it away right now this weekend. Wow. Aaron Rodgers, he's all out of sorts.
Wow.
You know, he's got he's got a bunch of stuff going. He's thinking about Joe Rogan while he's dropping back. I don't know what he's doing. So
Pat McAfee, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. For the brand, Aaron. For the brand. Yeah.
Oh God. Anyway,
what a week. What
else should we talk about before we start the show?
Well, before we start the show, I did want to ask how the patron Zoom event went.
Oh, we missed you.
I know.
I made a terrible faux pas.
Uh-oh.
Well, I've gotten so much enjoyment out of you and I calling this show when we started, Shootin' the Shit.
When we started.
Because we really, that's kind of what I've done going back to KJR all these years. But we never could call anything Shootin' the Shit for obvious reason. You can't use the word shit. But now we can, and I'm like, oh my God, this should be my title that's all we've ever done is Shoot the Shit. That I decided that when I sent out the invite to the patrons to come to a Zoom, to call it Shootin' the Shit, and everybody thought when I called it Shootin' the Shit, that it was them peeking in on you and me doing Shootin' the Shit.
Well, luckily for them, it wasn't. I am sorry that I wasn't able to be there. I will be. Well, I'm sure it'll probably happen again. And I can.
What I've got to do is I've got to start setting these things up more often. Maybe one with you, one with the Seahawks No Table, where they can answer. Everybody keeps asking me the same question. The Q&As are just ridiculous. I can count. It just takes. There's like an over/under on when somebody's going to ask if like Hugh Millen can be on the podcast, or what's the story with Mike Holmgren, or that type of stuff. So I think they need new questions. They need new figures to ask questions.
Sure.
So you'll come the next time. Okay? Yeah.
I'm sure it was a great time.
Hey, so it was actually really good. It was 2 hours. It was really good. I'm gonna do something with that video and audio. I don't know what it is yet. The Duckies, congratulations.
Thank you.
I'll have everybody know that you told us. I think you told us 31-10, something like that.
I think it was like a 31-17, 34-17, something like that.
And then I got a text on my way to Las Vegas, Nevada, asking if I would put $50 down on the Duckies for Slick Hawk, which I did.
Thank you.
And you were $50 winner. You went to
Yes.
the game. Did you have fun?
Yeah.
I saw a picture of you at a Husky tailgate, I think. You didn't have a,
Well, yeah. I was
very
walking around the
good face.
tailgate and everything,
You
hanging
looked
out,
miserable. You looked miserable at that.
Miserable. No, it was a great time. The weather was miserable. Tell you what.
Yeah.
That was. I mean, my goodness. So it was one of those games. When the game is over, that's when everybody leaves, right? So once Oregon went up 2 scores, I figured it was good, and left for warmer pastures. Just because. No, but really, it was early in the fourth quarter. The Ducks scored. Dye scores the touchdown, and you just know that there's nothing Washington's going to be able to do offensively to mount any kind of a comeback. So I was like, it's done.
I see.
Yeah.
I see how you see it.
That was wide open for the taking from the Washington Huskies. The Oregon Ducks gave them no kind of challenge. Washington could have walked in. They could have had a 3-touchdown lead at halftime. They just didn't.
They didn't take it.
They didn't take it.
I watched the game at the Aria. Do you know what the Aria is?
I do.
Okay.
I do know.
I went to the Aria and sat down at, I believe, 4:30 Pacific time to watch the Huskies and the Duckies, and I had a couple of drinks along the way. And it's funny how I don't know whether you hallucinate when you have drinks, but I had a couple of drinks. I just started hallucinating. Like, I'll give you one for example. I hallucinated that at 24-16 down with just a minute or so to go, that they chose to punt instead of trying to actually go for the first down. And then they snapped the punt. They snapped the ball to frickin' Bellevue.
To Bellevue. I thought it was intentional. I thought they're like, well, there's no way we can get the first down. But that was the only explanation I had. We take the safety, try to use the free kick to go onside. We're desperate. I don't know. I didn't know what was going on. But that snap was so bad, I thought that had to be intentional. I didn't say it was a smart decision, but I thought that has to be intentional. No.
Has there been any fallout at Montlake since the triple zeros were on the scoreboard of that game? Anything happened this week?
Before we started the show, I was going to bring this up. So the offensive coordinator is gone.
Yes.
The head coach, after whatever that was on the sideline with his own player, I think he's probably gone too, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he's gone.
I mean,
he's gone for this week for sure. But
he's gone this week, but he's not coming back.
I don't think he's coming back. I suppose it's possible he could finish out the season. He's certainly not going to be coach next season. What I want to know is, here's something that's not being talked about. Have you, you were at the game. Have you gone back and really watched the moment on the sidelines where he hits the player and then shoves the player towards the bench? Have you seen that video?
I've just seen the clips. I've just seen the minute-long clip.
Why is nobody challenging what his explanation was? Was his explanation not that I wanted to clear the field, I wanted to get my guys on the sidelines? That's what I was trying to do. I wasn't trying to hit the player. I was just trying to clear our guys off the field. Was that not the explanation?
That's, in the postgame, yeah.
Have you maybe I'm blind, but when I watch the video, when he reaches the guy, the guy's already well off the field. Or am I wrong about that?
Right. No,
he's actually
he's on the sideline.
He's behind. He's between the coach and the bench by the time Jimmy Lake. There's no need. That explanation doesn't hold any water. By the time he gets there, he's way off the field.
But we know what it was.
He's frustrated.
It's not. Yeah.
Doesn't like the guy. I think there's more to it.
There could be, I guess. And it wasn't the most egregious thing, but it certainly was a bad look.
Bad look for a guy that's already. Yeah.
And for a job where you have to go into living rooms and talk to moms and say, hey, send your son to me for the next 4 or 5 years.
I'll take care of him.
Exactly. Right. And then that video's out there. So
Sammy Heward this week. Are you hearing that? I'm hearing Sammy Heward this week.
I hear rumblings, right?
Yeah.
We don't know what the coaching. Well, they should do that. Why wouldn't you do that?
So they got Arizona State. Who do the Duckies have?
So Oregon has Washington State.
That's right. It's Washington State week. And Oregon now moves up to number 3 in the college football playoffs. So they've got this whole thing right there in their hands, right?
Just got to win.
Just win, baby.
Just win, baby.
Just win.
Okay.
So what?
I'm very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable.
What is it? Washington State? Who else do they have?
Utah.
Oh.
there.
And they might have to play Utah again.
And Oregon State.
In the Pac-12 championship game, right?
None of those games is easy. Utah's the worst of them, and you'd have to beat them twice now.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know.
There's no scenario. I guess I should ask Neuheisel this, but there's no scenario where Oregon wins out and they don't get in at this point, is there?
If they went out, they're in, and I felt that almost all year long.
Yeah,
even since the Stanford loss, and even before that. But after the Stanford loss, I still said they could win every single game on the rest of their schedule by 1 point and get in, just because I thought that the landscape of college football would dictate that, and that's how it play out. That is how it's played out. So Ohio State is up there. They may eventually jump them, who knows? But then they would not kick out. Ohio State would not kick out Oregon.
And Cincinnati,
I'm not worried about Cincinnati.
They're not going to jump them. Even undefeated. No, okay.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
they can't.
And just as if things weren't bad enough for Jen Cohen, the athletic director at the University of Washington, after her coach strikes a player, they fire a coordinator, they suspend the coach. As if that's all not enough, the basketball team goes out on opening night and gets blown out by Northern Illinois.
You know what?
By the way, I'm assuming you're a Duckies basketball fan as much as you're a Duckies. You understand that the Duckies' best player this year. Mm-hmm. Are you following Ducks basketball?
Yeah, I am. I watched the game the other day.
You understand that the guy who's going to end up being their best player on the floor is a transfer from
Washington.
No.
Syracuse.
Quincy Guerrier.
Transfer from Syracuse. Now this I did not know.
Yes,
this I did not know.
Quincy Guerrier is going to be their best player, and he was the best rebounder and probably the best scorer on Syracuse last year, for God's sake. And he went to the NBA first. He left Syracuse, went to the NBA, and then made an announcement: if I don't stay in the draft, I'm going to transfer from Syracuse anyway.
Gotta love those new rules, don't you?
And he went to frickin' Oregon, of all the places.
How does Altman do it?
He's a Canadian guy. He's a Canadian.
I've always said, money that shows up inside the shoe when they hand you the shoe, that doesn't count against any violations. You're okay to do that. Look, we've been talking about Jen Cohen, or we're gonna fire Jen Cohen. Is Jen Cohen gonna get? Jen Cohen might just quit. She just throws her hands up. I'm done.
I don't think that's happening, but I don't know. And I have been pretty outspoken about Jen Cohen.
Yeah.
I think the Washington Athletic Department needs a new leader. They need someone else to make the next hires as head coach of the basketball and football program. Mm-hmm. So I'm advocating that she be dismissed, but I like Jen Cohen personally. I have nothing against Jen Cohen, and I think she was a hell of a fundraiser, and she is a credit to the University of Washington athletic program. And if they could convince her to take a step back and do what she used to do and be a center or an integral part of the Washington athletic department, I think they'd be better off for it. So I'm not anti-Jen Cohen the person. I just think this program is in the turlet, as Archie Bunker would say. I mean, it is. It's bad. The basketball program, the football program. When was the combination of the two this bad? I mean, it's been a long time. It's bad.
Sure. Yeah, it's really tearing me up too. It's really just ripping me apart.
Oh God.
It's a good time to be an Oregon fan.
Look at you tap dancing. Stop.
No, come on. I wouldn't do that.
That's terrible.
Would I do that?
No.
Do you know what it's like being an Oregon fan in Washington? You get it. It's all sides. Just pew, pew, pew.
What's worse?
Okay.
Being an Oregon fan Saturday at the Washington-Oregon game in Seattle?
Uh-huh.
Or being a Washington fan and going to the game when the Huskies play the Ducks in Eugene, Oregon? What's worse? What's harder?
Right now, I would say probably being a Husky fan playing at Autzen Stadium. I would say probably.
I've heard some nasty things. I can't imagine that Seattle people treat Oregon people wearing the hat. I can't believe at Montlake they treat them poorly. I don't know. I've been to some games.
You can't believe they treat them poorly?
Yeah. Do they?
It's happened.
I've been at some Oregon Washington games.
Mine.
I don't see it.
It goes both ways. Now, I don't know that it would necessarily happen right now just because, it's is not a lot of piss and vinegar going on for Washington football right now.
Right.
I will say this: Oregon fans are some of the worst fans there are, and it's just a fact. And I think
define worst. What does that mean?
It's as far as class to other fans, especially Washington fans. It goes the other way though, more than you might want to think.
Okay.
But Oregon fans are jerks, and I know that Oregon fans are jerks.
Are you a jerk?
No, I don't do that. I think you know me, kind of how I go about my fandom and everything, and I'm all for good-natured ribbing and stuff like that, but I don't get nasty. I don't think it has a place in sports. We can all coexist as one and still have rivalries and still hate the other guys without getting nasty. So,
fair enough.
But I think there's a lot of that with Oregon fans, and I think maybe more than you would think sometimes with Washington fans.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
Should we start the show now? Or should we end the show now?
One last thing before we do start the show. Before we start the show.
Yes.
Just because now when we release this and when people hear this, I guess it'll be Friday. But today is Thursday. Today's Veterans Day.
Oh yes. Yes, I should have I'm
No, not at all.
I should have brought that up.
No,
That's right.
no, it's okay. It's perfectly fine. I just want to, but on a day like today, my thoughts are with the 115th Mobile Public Affairs Detachment out of Salem, Oregon, the 4th Stryker Brigade Combat Team, 2nd Infantry Division out of Fort Lewis, who I deployed with in 2007, 2008, and with all veterans. And it's what I love about this era that we're in right now is that so much, I feel so much support from people, from businesses, for veterans, and it's not always been that way. If you look back kind of in the history of America and the way veterans have been met at certain times in our country's history, it hasn't always been that way. It is now, and to that, I thank everybody. So everybody who is a veteran, thank you very much for your service, and especially to the families of veterans who I say, when service members are deployed, I think it's harder even on the families than it is really on the service members.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
For
like
sure.
You like to do. You took the word. the last comment that you made, I was just sitting here waiting to say thank you to the families as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you to you and to everybody who has served. But yes, I couldn't agree more, even though I've never been a part of it. I've never been touched by it. But I can't imagine what it's like to send a son, to send a daughter, to send a husband, to send a wife, to send a brother, to send a sister, and not know if they're ever going to come back. So I thank you, I thank everybody who's served, and I thank all the families who have allowed their loved ones to serve and been as brave as even the servers themselves. Thank you very much. That was good, and I can't believe I didn't have it on my list. I'm very disappointed in myself on that. All right.
Well, there's 2 of us here.
You want to ring the bell to say the show is starting and ending at the same time?
This will be the shortest show we've done.
You want to? You got to say Shootin' the Shit with Slick.
I got to do the whole thing. All right.
In the books.
Shootin' the Shit with Slick and Mitch is in the books.